Hello and welcome to your Fantasy Premier League one-stop shop. I'm your host Stephen Gallagher, world number 3 in points totals over the past 3 seasons. Today we're looking at all the key points for Game Week 28, how to handle the upcoming blanks and doubles, chip strategies, the best defenders, midfielders and forwards to buy, fixtures to target, captaincy and more. If you've been watching on YouTube and have been enjoying the videos, consider subscribing. We're aiming for 5,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Let's get straight into it, starting with some injury news and suspensions. For Wolves, Cunha's red card in the FA Cup means he's suspended for the next 3 Premier League games and will be back available in Game Week 31. For Liverpool, Gakpo travelled with the squad for the Champions League match against PSG, but he blocked a shot in training and picked up a knock, so we'll have to wait and see if he's fit for the Southampton fixture. For Crystal Palace, Mateta has received 25 stitches to his ear after that horror tackle from the Millwall goalkeeper, so wishing him all the best in his recovery. For Newcastle, Lewis Hall will miss the rest of the season with a foot injury, and Anthony Gordon is suspended after picking up a red card in the FA Cup. He'll be back by Game Week 31. And then finally, Isak was pictured in training on Tuesday. He was taken off against Brighton in the FA Cup due to tightness, so I think we'll just have to wait and see for more updates on his fitness before the deadline this week. On to the blanks and doubles schedule. A lot has happened since last game week with the FA Cup. There's a lot to cover, which I'll do my best to summarise now, and all this information I'm discussing is based off the info that Ben Crellin has posted on Twitter, so massive shout out to him as per usual. So very quickly on Game Week 29, if you don't know already, Game Week 29 is a blank game week. Aston Villa, Liverpool, Newcastle and Crystal Palace are all blanking, so unless you plan to free hit that game week, then your transfers now should be focused on dealing with those players in your team that are blanking. Then we have a double game week in Game Week 32 for Crystal Palace and Newcastle, so they both blank in Game Week 29 and double in Game Week 32. So if you have the option to bench them during the blank and then hold on to them until Game Week 32, that would be ideal, but obviously not everyone can do that. Then we have blank Game Week 34, and the blanks this game week will be determined by who makes the FA Cup semi-final, which is during Game Week 34, and those fixtures are most likely to be rescheduled to a double game week in Game Week 33, 35 or 36, but there's also a possibility that they get rescheduled inside Game Week 34 and are just played midweek. So I know it's a lot to process. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. The fixtures confirmed for Game Week 34 are Newcastle against Ipswich, Wolves against Leicester, Chelsea against Everton and Liverpool against Spurs. In terms of who's most likely to blank, we can try to predict the teams that will blank and double based off the bookies odds for who will reach the FA Cup semi-final. But because the FA Cup and tournament football in general is so unpredictable, personally I just prefer to ignore all those predictions and approach things by looking at the timeline for when we will know all this information for definite. So by the Game Week 30 deadline, we should know who's blanking in Game Week 34, unless of course those blanks do get rescheduled inside Game Week 34. And then by the Game Week 31 deadline, we should know who's doubling in Game Week 33 and who's blanking in Game Week 34, if the Premier League releases the fixtures in time before the Game Week 31 deadline. There's also a chance that we get the Game Week 33 and 34 fixtures confirmed before the Game Week 30 deadline, but this is pretty unlikely as it would be a very quick turnaround from the Premier League. So with all this taken into account, I think that the key takeaway is aiming and planning for a wildcard in Game Week 31 is the best bet right now, as we'll likely have the most information on the upcoming blanks and doubles by then. So yeah, there you have it. I know it's a lot of info to take in, and just the main takeaway is that if you still have your wild card, then planning to use it in Game Week 31 is your best bet as things stand. On to chip strategy. These are my suggested chip strategies if you have all your chips left. Strategy number 1 is my favorite one. We wildcard in 31 when we have more info on the blanks and doubles, and then we create that wildcard with bench boost 33 in mind. Then triple captain Isak in Game Week 32 for his double, bench boost 33 for what is predicted to be the biggest double of the season. Then we free hit in Game Week 34 to handle the blanks because all the players you got in that double in Game Week 33 now blank in Game Week 34, and then we use the assistant manager chip from 36 to 38 to finish off the season. So this strategy isn't perfect because we're sacrificing the use of the assistant manager chip. Ideally, we'd like to use the assistant manager chip on a double game week, but if we activate the chip from, let's say, game week 31 to 33 in order to cover those doubles, then we can't use the bench boost or the free hit those game weeks to handle the blanks and doubles. So Not ideal, but I do think using assistant manager in 36 to 38 to allow us to use the bench boost and free hit these game weeks is probably the best option. Strategy number 2 is another good option. The difference with this strategy is that instead of bench boost 33 and free hit 34, we move those forward a game week. So we're bench boosting 32 and free hitting in 33. The reason we would do this is because of Newcastle and Palace. So Newcastle, they double in game week 32 and they don't blank in game week 34, so they have a fixture then. And if Palace lose to Fulham in the FA Cup, Palace will do the exact same. They'll double in game week 32 and have a fixture in game week 34. So you could wildcard in game week 31 with 3 Newcastle and 3 Palace players for their double in game week 32, which means then you'll have at least 6 players for the blank game week in game week 34, plus a few of the others that you have in your squad. So a free hit wouldn't really be needed that week. The only issue here is that Newcastle and Palace won't double in game week 33. So instead what we do in this strategy is free hit in game week 33 to get a full team of doublers in, and we use the bench boost in 32 instead. So it's definitely a very viable strategy, but only in the case that Fulham beat Palace in the FA Cup, which we will know before the game week 30 deadline. The final strategy is in the case that you really need to free hit in game week 29 because you just have so many players blanking. You have lots of Liverpool, Aston Villa, and most importantly Newcastle and Palace players. The reason that's important is because if you have lots of Newcastle and Palace players, then you don't really need to wildcard in game week 30 or 31 because you'd already be pretty well set up for game week 32 anyways. So you can bench boost in 32 with all those players, and then you can wildcard in game week 34 to sort out your team for the blank if you really need it, or wildcard in 35 and sort yourself out just for the rest of the season. So those are my chip strategies. Let's take a look at the assistant manager chip and how this kind of falls into place. If you do still have your assistant manager chip, then I'd say it's a bit of a tricky spot that you're in, because in an ideal world you would play it from game week 31 to 33. That way you're covering 2 double game weeks. But we've just seen that ideally we'd be using our wildcard in 31 and our bench boost and free hits in this period. So those chips are really important to navigate this fixture schedule in order to handle the blanks and doubles and avoid taking a lot of hits. And it means that this strategy of assistant manager from game week 31 to 33 isn't ideal. It isn't possible if you go with this strategy. But obviously if you did already use your free hit and your wild card and you still have the assistant manager chip left, then I would say this period is the ideal time to do so. But if you have those chips left and don't know when to use the assistant manager chip, I think the next best thing is game week 36 to 38. There's still a chance of a double in game week 36, and there's a few table bonus options here too. You can go for Spurs against Palace and Villa. Definitely a chance you get some table bonus opportunities there. Or you could go for Man City against Southampton and Bournemouth. I would say no table bonus there, but the Southampton fixture is great. Let's take a quick look at the triple captainship opportunities as well. Very quickly on where to play the triple captainship, because this chip isn't as important as the other chips. We've seen this season, obviously, Haaland and Salah get some big scores for triple captaincy, but in general, the free hit, bench boost, assistant manager, they'll all get you a lot more points relatively. So where you play your triple captain is essentially around these other chips. And the best options for me are Salah this game week against Southampton away. Yes, there is a chance he gets benched, but I honestly think the most likely outcome is that he starts and then gets subbed off if or when Liverpool are well ahead of Southampton, because they have got Champions League fixtures against PSG around this Southampton game. So Arne Slot will want to keep Salah fit and ready for that fixture. They only just got by 1-0 against PSG last night, and they only had 2 shots the whole game, so they know it's not going to be an easy fixture against PSG. They'll want Salah fit and ready for that. But I do still think that he'll play the Southampton match and that he is a good shout for a triple captaincy here. But my favourite option is Isak in game week 32 against Man United at home and Crystal Palace at home. You get the double game week, 2 home fixtures, and Isak is one of the best FPL assets this season. It just makes a lot of sense. And finally, another option is Erling Haaland in game week 36. In the chance that Man City get a double that game week, which is kind of hard to plan for, but at the same time you can still use it on Haaland if it's a single game week because they play Southampton, which is always a fixture to target. Next up is defenses to target using our fixture difficulty and defensive strength ratings over the next 5 game weeks. I'm going to go through this quickly so the video isn't an hour long. First in the rankings are Liverpool. Obviously they blank in game week 29, so keep that in mind. but the fixtures around that are really nice, and they're one of the best defenses in the league. If you own them, then try to hold on to them through the blank game week, and if you don't, then look to getting them in after the blank. And if you're free hitting in Game Week 29, then I would say get them in now. Second in the rankings are Wolves. Definitely not the best defence, but the fixtures are good enough to warrant a punt on Aït-Nouri or Semenyo. With the formation that Wolves play, 3-4-3, these two guys play wing back and get into some very attacking positions. I mentioned them for last game week and Semenyo picked up an assist. I do think they're worth a shout for sure. Third in the rankings are Nottingham Forest. They play Man City this week, so not the ideal time to buy, but their defence has been so solid across the season, and the upcoming fixtures are good. They play in Game Week 29 too against Ipswich, which is a really nice time to buy, I would say, especially if you're not free hitting that game week and need a defensive replacement for one of your players that are blanking. Fourth in the rankings are Chelsea. The fixture this week against Leicester is very good, but then it's Arsenal away, Spurs at home, and Brentford away, who can all score goals. And on top of that, Chelsea have been really poor defensively, but if you can rotate a Chelsea defender in and out of your squad to get those Leicester and Ipswich home fixtures, then definitely look into it. Fifth in the rankings are Man City. They're out of the Champions League and the League Cup, so they only have the Premier League and the FA Cup to focus on now. We know that Man City like to turn up towards the end of the season, and the fixtures look good from a defensive point of view. They've got 2 clean sheets in the last 3 games against Newcastle and Spurs, and the one they didn't get a clean sheet against was Liverpool, so they're definitely worth a look in now, and Gvardiol is the most attacking of all the defenders from them. Next up is attacks to target using our fixture difficulty and attack and strength ratings over the next 5 game weeks. First in the rankings are Liverpool. Obviously, they blank in Game Week 29. I keep saying that, but just keep that in mind. Salah is a must-own this season, and Cody Gakpo is still a close call for this match against Southampton, so if you own him, I'd consider getting rid, as he also blanks in Game Week 29 too. Second in the rankings are Chelsea. Another blank from Cole Palmer. If you sold him a few weeks back, then fair play, and if you still own him, then my advice would be to hold. He was unlucky not to come away with a return last week, and he plays Leicester this week, and he doesn't blank in Game Week 29, so he's a definite hold for me. In terms of other Chelsea attackers, Nkunku and Neto were both very involved against Southampton. Neto played up top with Nkunku on the left wing, and I think we'll continue to see that setup until Jackson is back, and these guys are definitely ones to consider this game week. Third in the rankings are Bournemouth. They've not been on fire the past few games, although Kluivert scored an absolute banger last game week. He's still my favourite pick of the Bournemouth players, and Dango has slipped down the rankings of my preference and been replaced by Semenyo in second place, as Evanilson is back from injury, which means Dango's minutes up front are a bit at risk. So I've put Semenyo ahead of him because of how consistent he's been, and his minutes are just so secure in that Bournemouth squad. Fourth in the rankings are Newcastle. They've got the blank in Game Week 29 and then the double in Game Week 32. So if you don't own Newcastle attackers, I would wait until Game Week 30 to invest. And if you do own them, I'd look to hold on if you can. Isak and Murphy are the ones to go for. Isak, he just continues to haul, but we should be aware that he is a doubt for this upcoming game week, so keep an eye out for that. They're also missing a lot of important clientele, with Lewis Hall out for the rest of the season and Gordon out for the next 3 games. So keep an eye out on that. Maybe Newcastle won't be the same free-flowing attack that we expect from them, but I still think Isak is a good player to hold on to, and then Murphy, he's just great value at his price for his returns. On to the stats review, where we analyse the best performing players in every position statistically, and we combine that with the fixture difficulty ratings. Players in red are the most expensive and in green are the cheapest. For goalkeepers, we're looking at expected goals conceded per 90 against the defensive fixture difficulty rating. We have the Liverpool and Wolves goalies, followed by a really mixed bunch. Of the options in that bunch, I would say Sells is the best pickup with Forest defensive data and their upcoming fixtures. On to defenders, we're looking at non-penalty expected goal involvement per 90 against the defensive fixture difficulty rating, multiplied by the team's defensive strength. Liverpool players at the top with Trent the most attacking, then Wolves below them with Aït-Nouri the most attacking. Then further down we see Milenkovic for Forest, Gabriel for Arsenal, Cucurella for Chelsea, and then at the bottom right we see Gvardiol for Man City, Munoz for Palace, all putting up good attacking data. On to the midfielders, we're looking at non-penalty expected goal involvement per 90 against the attack and fixture difficulty ratings. Crystal Palace, Chelsea, Bournemouth and Liverpool players in a mix at the top here. The standouts for them seem to be Salah, Jota, Palmer, Dango, Nkunku and Sarr. Now Jota has actually overtaken Salah for non-penalty expected goal involvement, which is crazy. Below them, the standouts are Pep Sarr, still putting up really good expected data for Spurs, and then De Bruyne for Man City. On to the forwards, Strand Larsen at the top here. He's definitely worth a look in with Cunha out. He'll be the main man up top for Wolves. But I just think that Cunha is so essential to Wolves, and him being out will impact their attack massively. After him, we have Isak, Watkins, Mateta, Nketiah, Gakpo, Darwin and Evanilson all in a row here. Haaland out in the far right here, and Wissa below him with good expected data but really tough upcoming fixtures. On to captaincy. Salah is the obvious captaincy option. He's the best player in the league, playing against the worst defence in the league. But this doesn't come without its concerns. He's definitely at risk of an early sub if Liverpool are cruising ahead of Southampton, so beware of that. And if he doesn't start, I highly doubt he'll make a sub appearance. So if you captain him, make sure you have your vice captain on your next favourite pick, and mine is Cole Palmer. I know he's so out of form, but I have a feeling he'll be back to his best this game week. They play Leicester, which is an easy fixture on paper. Let's see how he can get on, and if he can outscore his teammate in third place, Pedro Neto. He'll be playing up top for Chelsea. He bagged a goal and an assist last game week. Let's see if he can do it again this time round. In fourth, I have Trent against Southampton away. Was kind of tempted to put him in third place here because I think a clean sheet is on the cards for Liverpool. And if you can combine that with an attack on return, then he'll be in for a massive points haul. And finally, in fifth, I have Mbeumo against Aston Villa. There was a lot of people I considered for this fifth place spot. Isak, Haaland, just to name a few. I just think that Aston Villa looked shaky at the back against Club Brugge in the Champions League midweek, and they'll probably have some tired legs going into this match. I just fancy Mbeumo to bag a few in this fixture. On to my Game Week 27 review. It was a decent game week for me. I came away with 68 points and a game week rank of 1 million, a small green arrow from 290 to 227k overall. Raya and Gabriel picked up some clean sheet points. Kirkez got an assist, Mbeumo also got an assist. My transfer last week was Rodgers to Neto, which I was raging with because Rodgers got himself a goal, but then Neto outscored him with a goal and an assist, but he didn't get any bonus points. I then went for Salah captaincy instead of Palmer. He just got an assist and a clean sheet point, so no bonus, not really a big deal there. He didn't outscore Palmer by a lot. And then Kluivert got a nice 10-pointer with a goal and 3 bonus. And Wissa also got a goal and 3 bonus. So a good game week overall. Let's look at next week's plans. For my Game Week 28 plans, I've got 1 free transfer and 1.3 million in the bank. In defence, I've got Raya and Gabriel against Man United away, Robinson and Castagne against Brighton away. So double up twice in the defence there, which isn't ideal. In the midfield, I've got Salah captained against Southampton at home, Mbeumo against Villa at home, Palmer and Neto against Leicester at home, and Kluivert against Spurs away. And up front, I've got Isak against West Ham away and Wissa against Villa at home. Then on the bench, I have Fabianski, who won't play, Gakpo against Southampton at home, Hall against West Ham away, and Kirkez against Spurs away. The plan this game week is just to deal with Lewis Hall. He's unfortunately out for the rest of the season, which is really unfortunate news as he's just been playing so well, and I've really enjoyed watching him and obviously owning him in FPL, but more importantly, I just hope he recovers quickly. In terms of who I plan to replace him with, the context of all my transfers is that I'm not free hitting Game Week 29 and I plan to wildcard in Game Week 31, so whoever I get in for Hall, I only need for the next 3 game weeks. The players I'm considering are Gvardiol, Milenkovic and Ait-Nouri, so I haven't decided yet, but the good news for you guys is that I will be on a deadline stream this game week 1 hour before the deadline, so come along and watch and you can see which defender I plan to get in for Lewis Hall. I'm sure a lot of you guys are in the same situation as me there, so come along and watch and we'll figure it out together. That's all for today, folks. Go ahead and drop a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. We're aiming for 5,000 subscribers by the end of the season, so join the community if you've been enjoying the videos. Until next time, guys, have a good one.